Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents 9 Thoughts That Can Change Your Marriage, because a great relationship doesn't happen by accident, by Sheila Wray Gregoire, narrated by Susan Hanfield. We do what we think. My husband Keith and I have been married 23 years. And happily married for 18. Those first 5 years were awful. Sex was awful, school was awful, our social life was awful. We talked past each other rather than with each other. Yet we managed to leave marital misery behind and emerge, only slightly scathed, to marital bliss. I'm firmly convinced it's because we are both extremely stubborn. Neither of us was willing to allow our marriage to fail. But perhaps even more important, both of us are extremely loud. When we were mad, we talked about it. We cried about it. At times, I'm ashamed to admit, we even yelled about it. And slowly but surely, we experienced some breakthroughs, and the house grew a lot quieter. I'm not sure, though, that I did any of these things the right way, at least if you measure right by how a nice Christian girl is supposed to act. You likely know that girl. She's demure, yet she's strong as a tiger. She submits enthusiastically, yet she has a mind of her own. She never speaks up or criticizes her husband, yet she is insightful and cunning enough to win him without words. Her house is organized, her children make crafts, and her husband is proud as a peacock. I am not that girl. If I have an opinion, I'm incapable of keeping it to myself. I am only industrious in bursts when I finally lose it and become the very model of a modern wifely drill sergeant. I have fed my children chocolate cake for breakfast, although I did so only because they saw me eating it first, and it seemed fair. I don't always dust, I go to McDonald's too often, and I don't order the salads. I may be a miserable failure as far as the perfect Christian wife is concerned, yet I have a good solid marriage. My husband and I feel as if we are one. That feeling, however, was not automatic. And for me, the problem started in the bedroom. Keith and I had both waited for marriage to have sex, and we both assumed that it would be wonderful, mind-blowing, and perfectly natural. But it wasn't. It was awkward, it was messy, and worst of all, it hurt. Whenever Keith wanted to make love, I felt rejected because he wanted something that made me miserable. My frustration finally grew to the point where I wondered, why can't he just love me for me and not for what I can do for him? I accused him of selfishness, of not loving me, of being a Neanderthal who couldn't control his passions. The more we fought over sex, the more certain I became that he didn't value me. I felt so lonely, and yet instead of being sympathetic and wrapping me in a bear hug, Keith lobbed accusations right back. Why don't you care about my feelings? Why don't you want me? After I had prayed for 2 exhausting years that he would start caring about me, a thought entered my head. Do you believe the only one who can fix this relationship is Keith? Don't you have something to do with it? I didn't particularly like that thought. And so I vehemently argued with myself about why changing was impossible. Even if we only considered sex, how was I supposed to enjoy something so gross and uncomfortable? Then another thought hit me even harder. If God says that sex is good, and the whole world says that sex is good, maybe you should start figuring out how to make sex good. I was stunned. If that thought was right, then the responsibility fell on me to do something about my struggle. I had to stop thinking sex was awful and start thinking, sex is great. I just don't have it all figured out yet. The problem may have started in the bedroom, but it wasn't a problem with sex. It was a problem with how I was thinking. The next few years in our marriage became my big research project into this thing called us. I decided to conquer this sex issue once and for all, because if God created something this great, no way was I going to miss it. I read books and talked to friends about how to make sex work. I talked to wise mentors about how to deal with past issues that held people back. I studied Keith to glean what made him feel loved. Slowly but surely, I fell madly in love with Keith again, and thankfully, he with me too. Faulty thinking leaves us stuck. My marriage was stuck when I believed that Keith's libido was the cause of all our fights. After all, if his sex drive was the problem, then the only solution I could see was to make Keith want sex less. I threw my energy into that dead-end goal. I bought a wardrobe of long flannel nightgowns. I complained constantly about headaches, and I stopped kissing in all its forms. I was fruitlessly expending all this energy, making myself and my husband frustrated because I suffered from faulty thinking. It was only when I realized that I had a different option, instead of investing so much energy into getting Keith to want sex less, I could figure out how to make me want it more, did things begin to change. When our options are limited, it's easy to become hopeless. I believed that my marriage couldn't get better until Keith changed, but I had no control over that, so I was stuck. And when you're stuck, you stop trying, or you do counterproductive things, such as emptying out the local Salvation Army of all their granny nightgowns. You're not fixing your marriage, you're digging a deeper hole. But what if that initial thought was wrong? What if peace and joy are not dependent on someone else changing, but they instead flow from God, giving us the ability to choose how to think, how to feel, and how to respond? We can choose to make our life fulfilling by aligning our thoughts more with God's. Jesus, after all, isn't just our way to salvation. He is truth itself. John chapter 14, verse 6. When we grow close to Jesus, He reveals truth. That lets us see all the options before us. Then we won't feel stuck. We'll know that there is always a way forward. Christians get stuck, too. That sounds a bit like a cliched bumper sticker, though, doesn't it? Are you stuck? You just need Jesus. While this pat statement has a foundation of truth, if it were really that easy, wouldn't all Christians have great marriages? Yes, we would. And I think it's to our shame that we don't. But I've seen lots of faulty thinking in Christian circles that goes something like this. If you have a problem in your marriage, then the answer is always to pray more, submit more, or love more. If you just pray more, your husband will stop the porn. If you just submit more, your husband will become a leader and stop playing all those video games. If you just love him more, he'll stop being a workaholic and start remembering your birthday. Do these things and your husband will change, and you will be happy. Now, prayer, of course, is one of the best weapons we have in bringing peace to our lives, and I certainly don't mean to discount its importance. But the reason behind the prayer matters. If you pray only to get God to do something, then you treat God like Santa Claus or a rabbit's foot, not a savior with a claim on your life. Prayer should always be about submission to God's will. It should not be about convincing God to do yours. Similarly, submission and love are among the noblest pursuits. But if your purpose in doing them is to cajole your husband into changing,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?